Today's episode is basically another haunted home stories, but the ghosts in these stories are a bit different. Usually we expect ghosts in ghost stories to be, well, scary. They may look horrifying, or are resentful souls with a grudge against the living, or sometimes even malicious, actively seeking to harm people. But ghosts in today's stories are much calmer. They seem to want to either stay side by side with the resident of the house, or even form a relationship with him or her, or just simply curious at best. In some of the previous stories, I read a shaman claiming about 90% of ghosts are benign, and today's stories make me think that might be true after all. So, here are 6 allegedly true stories about homes haunted by not your typically scary ghosts, ranging from romantic to sad to curious. As always, handpicked, translated and narrated by host Anthony. About 5 years ago, I worked for a company in a place of military service. Some people with specific skill or qualification in high demand can choose to substitute the military service by offering the skill to the industry seeking that qualification. One problem was the workplace was rather far from home, and I had to rent a room. It was a kind of small studio flat. I remember the landlord emphasizing that it used to be rented to a female tenant. I guess that gives an impression that the room was used neatly. The first night there, I came back from drinks with friends who helped me moving my stuff in. The room was still messy, but I just fell onto bed crying, "Tomorrow is another day." In the morning, I woke up with somebody slapping my shoulder, saying, "Wake up!" It felt so real. But I was, of course, all by myself in the room. Anyway, it was just about the time to get ready for work, so I just brushed it off as a vivid dream and got on with my day. Back home after work, I cooked instant noodle for dinner, put my stuffs away, and went to bed. I'm a side sleeper, and in the middle of the night, I felt somebody lying behind me. More specifically, I felt bosoms pressed against my back. I didn't know what to do. It felt both sensual and chilling. As if she read my mind, she whispered, "Don't turn around. Just stay still." And I did fall back to sleep as I was. I woke up in the morning feeling refreshed, but couldn't stop wondering what that was the previous night. Since then on, this mystery presence came around frequently. When I overslept, she woke me up by slapping on my back or arm, or snuggle up to my back or wrap around my shoulder when I was asleep. I somehow got used to it. I even got a second pillow. She clearly didn't mean a harm. Actually, she was doing more good than anything else. Being a young man, I got curious. Since she was so kind, we could probably do more than just spooning, perhaps. One night, when I felt she was back again, I asked, "Could I see your face?" "I died of a car accident. It's too ugly to show you," she said. I was a bit sad, but I certainly didn't want to get traumatized, so I didn't turn around. In those first couple of months in the room, she came around about 20 nights, waking me up in the morning, cuddling me to sleep, or even singing me a lullaby sometimes. into the 3rd month, I got a girlfriend, a real woman. Our relationship progressed quickly, and one day I could invite her to my room. I thought of the ghostly her, but, well, it was still daytime. But one thing led to another, and my girlfriend stayed over the night. On one side I was a bit worried if the ghost should come, but couldn't miss the chance to sleep with my girlfriend either. Fortunately, it wasn't the day of her visit, but such a luck couldn't last long. Girlfriend visited and stayed with me many times, and I guess she must have seen us together in the end. One night, I heard a quiet sobbing from one corner of the room, and she didn't come back again, even after I broke up with a girlfriend. I don't think I could have done anything differently, but I can't help but feeling sorry to and for the kindly ghost. Last August, I was home alone. The weather was so hot and muggy that I was getting sweaty and sticky even though I was just watching TV. Even though it was in the middle of my favorite show, I felt so stuffed and just decided to take a quick cold shower. I turned up the volume, hoping to follow the show by the sound, casually dropped all my clothes and headed to the bathroom. But under the cold shower, I froze. It wasn't because of the cold shower, but because I heard TV channel flip. Not just once, but it sounded like somebody kept flipping the channel every few seconds, continuously. I was definitely home alone, and I didn't hear anybody coming back home either. An intruder? Or could it be just the remote fell and landed on the channel switch? Or could it be TV's gone funny? I just shivered under the cold shower with my mind busy figuring out what was going on. And then the channel stopped flipping. Only then I quickly jumped out of the shower and cautiously came out of the bathroom. The remote was sitting securely on the coffee table as I left it. I checked every room, but there indeed was just me in the house. The TV was nevertheless on a different channel than the one I had set before shower, and maybe it was just a coincidence, but it was showing a female protagonist just coming out of the shower as if to mirror what I just did. Come to think of it, it wasn't the first time a weird thing happened in this house. About a year prior, I was home alone while all the other family went to Grandpa's birthday party in a different province. That night, I set the bedtime music on as I went to bed. I usually have a bit of a hard time falling asleep, so I created a playlist of calming and dreamy acoustic musics to play it on a loop. That night too, I couldn't fall asleep easily, and I remember I heard a playlist coming to the end of its 1 hour worth of music and going back playing the first song. The next thing I know is I was woken up by a loud music banging. By then, room was getting bright, but it was still an early hour of the morning. After I shook off the initial startle, I realized it was a song by my favorite punk rock band. But their music was most definitely not included on my bedtime song playlist. But when I checked the playlist, there indeed were the rock song and other random songs added on the playlist. Could I have added them and forgot? But I couldn't remember I ever did such a thing, and I wasn't even too drunk or was too tired to remember the previous night. And by the way, didn't I listen to the playlist coming to the last and looping back to the first song before I eventually fall asleep? I think there's somebody invisible living in my house who prefers a drama to a comedy show and enjoys an indie rock music. I work in the music industry, so I live with 2 other colleagues in the building with a recording studio. It's a story one of the colleagues told me. He sees ghosts, and according to him there was a ghost of the middle-aged man in our studio. He saw him the moment he first came to see the studio, but he didn't say anything because often ghosts become a bigger nuisance when they realize that there's somebody who can see them. But when the same ghost stayed in that same corner for days on, my colleague got curious and finally asked him what he was doing.
Do you see me? And you're not scared?
Ghost said. Not really. I've seen a lot of them. It's not that you are dripping blood or your face is melting down either. Nevertheless, we're working here. Can't you move to somewhere else? Colleague said.
I'm sorry, but can't I just stay? I won't do anything else,
Ghost said. Our studio is on the basement level. Right above us is a snack bar, and the first floor is a cram school. Apparently, the ghost's daughter attended a cram school every day, and he just wanted to watch his daughter walking up the stairs to the cram school. There was no better place than our studio, according to the ghost. Rather dingy, dark, and not many people ever coming around. Huh? I didn't know ghosts are so fussy about where they can or cannot stay, colleague said.
I'm not really supposed to stay behind. I should be moving on, so I'd better stay as inconspicuous as possible,
Ghost said. So you have a daughter, eh? What about her mother? Don't you want to see her too?
I miss her too, but she wouldn't want to see me.
When the man died, he and his wife was in the middle of acrimonious divorce procedure. Ghost was expecting she must have already moved on and found herself a new man or something. Anyway, the ghost looked harmless and his story sad, so my colleague told him in the end that he could stay around. And then one day, my colleague found the ghost not what it used to be. He had faded into a shadow. Oi, Mr. Ghost, are you still here? Colleague asked.
Yeah, but I think it's time to go. Thank you for everything.
Now faded shadow of the ghost said. So, all is well? Have no more regrets?
Well, as a matter of fact.
Apparently, he didn't see his daughter coming to cram school anymore. She probably found another cram school or something, and there was no point in staying on there when he couldn't see her anymore. He still missed his family a lot, but he feared he would be caught, by what I'm not sure, had he wandered further around in search for them. So, better just move on? My colleague took pity of him. He was not a mellow type, but after all, the ghost was the feature of the studio for months and months on. Well, there might be something I could do. Do you still remember your old address? Colleague said to the ghost. So my colleague went around based on the old address and managed to find the dead man's wife. As I said, my colleague is not mellow at all and just told us straight about the ghost guy in the studio, not caring whether she should believe it or not. Surprisingly, she took it as was and bursted into tears. She promised she could come to the studio when her daughter was back from school. And they did. Surprisingly, the ghost guy's face looked calm while his wife and daughter cried, not because they could see him, but probably sensed something nevertheless. The ghost guy said something to them, but my colleague could not understand, so just told the two women that the dead man looked so happy to see them again. Since that day, colleague could not see the ghost again. Hope he moved on as he said he would. I've never wanted to have the sixth sense, but if one could help with the ability as in his case, it probably could be a gift too. Now I have moved to a different place, but it's what happened in my last flat. Nothing odd happened for the first year there, until one day in January I had this weird dream. "Honey, hand me over my shirt, will you?" In the dream I was woken up by a strange young woman. Strangely, I don't remember her face, but I remember the first impression that she didn't look half bad. Her manner towards me was totally relaxed and intimate, as between a long-term lovers or a married couple. Who are you?" I asked, of course, slightly baffled. "Stop joking. Come, give me my shirt. I should help your mom now," she said nonchalantly. I got up, walked out, and indeed my mom was preparing breakfast in the kitchen. And at that point I woke up from the dream. Weird dream, but not particularly alarming. Except the woman continued appearing in my dreams. She would shift in the shape of other people I used to know and was friendly with, but somehow I knew it was she. In one dream, for example, she appeared as my Japanese tutor from a few years ago. "Did you do your homework?" she asked, just as the tutor used to. It carried on for a week this way, and I started feeling uneasy. And then it stopped as abruptly as it started. I slept soundly for about a week, but then she came back, this time not bothering to disguise herself as somebody else anymore. She looked a cliché of a female ghost, dressed in a white morning dress. Her eyes were all white. She didn't give off terrifying vibe or anything, but it was disturbing nonetheless. She seemed to assault her presence more and more as night passed. One night I could feel her long hair brushing against my back as I was sleeping on my side. Or other night I could feel somebody walking or sitting around the bed mattress for good 20 minutes. I could not dare to open my eyes for the fear of facing her white eyes staring straight at mine. She actually helped me on some occasions too, like she would urge me to wake up and I found myself overslept for work. One day, while visiting my parents, I told them what had been happening. Mom got a talisman from somewhere and gave it to me. On the day I put the talisman up, she appeared angry, with her white eyes all bloodshot. "Do you think you can get rid of me with that?" she said. I think that was the scariest moment in the whole time she had manifested in my dreams. Nevertheless, the talisman seemed to have worked. She stopped appearing. On the last day in the flat, I just talked into the air that she should peacefully move on now. But I can't shake off the feeling that she should be still there in the flat. I once worked as a project developer for about a year. It involved lots of meetings and cooperations with outsourced collaborators, so the company rented a flat for me. The first offer I rejected, citing it too small for the purpose, and the company then found a second property, which was indeed larger, but my God, what a place that was. The flat was on the ground floor of the building, tightly surrounded by other tall buildings. Another ray of sunlight came in all day long. Another stream of fresh breeze blew in even with all the windows opened. But I already rejected once and was not in the position to be fussy. Normally I used the flat during working hours, but one day the work dragged on till 11 at night and I decided to crash there. I chose the smallest room with no windows. When I was just about to doze away, I heard voices of men and women from the wardrobe side of the room. At first I thought noises should be from the outside. The flat was located in the busy area, full of bars and clubs, and it could get quite loud into the late night. But then I realized that was precisely why I chose this room with no windows. When my thought reached there, I opened my eyes. It was so pitch dark, I wasn't even sure if I opened my eyes or not. But I still heard it clearly, of somebody saying, "Who is he?" The instant triggered me to notice other things too. I'm a bit OCD, so I order slippers at the hallway or the mug cups in the cupboard in line at the end of the day before I leave. And when I was back the following day, things were moved around, not in any way obvious fashion, but very subtly, like a slipper left lying on top of the other, or one cup moved out of the line. I was in charge of the place, and I kept a record of who came in and out. I'm pretty sure it couldn't have been done by anyone. Then one night, work dragged on into late night again, and I crashed in the flat. This time I chose another room with a window. I was about to doze away when I felt a light shining in the room and opened my eyes, wondering. It was the screen of my mobile. It was time before smartphones, and my mobile was a bar-shaped model like the old Nokia phones, and its screen was on. Might be a text message? I picked it up, looked at it, and was left dumbfounded. It read, "Who are you?" It wasn't a text from somebody. It was written on my phone on the text composing page. I gasped despite of myself. Unlike smartphones nowadays, this old phone used physical buttons, and there was no way that it could come up with that sentence by whatever mistake. When one faces a situation that defies any logic, one sometimes chooses to just ignore it. That was what I did. I just turned off the phone and forced myself to sleep. A few more weird things happened there, but I think I just decided to ignore it. Not long after, the project I was working on was deemed unworthy by the management, and I left the company and that flat. I never thought I had anything remotely resembling the third eye or spiritual ability, nor have I been particularly interested in paranormal matters. But when I was 18, I got to move out of my parents and live with my older brother, who just got into university then. He had a wild first year enjoying his freedom as a uni student, and was hardly ever home. Should anything worry me, it wasn't of a ghost or such, but more of a theft or a robber. Then came summer. Brother didn't come home till late as usual. All evening long I left all the windows open to let the breeze in, but summer night stayed muggy, and only mosquitoes seemed to get in. So in the end I turned on the air conditioning and closed all the windows. Well, not quite all, because by the time I came to close the window of my room, I couldn't somewhat bother, and closed only the outer window with a transparent glass, and not the inner one with frosted glass. Then I went to bed. What woke me up was an inexplicable sense of chill. I think I never felt so nervous for no apparent reason. I checked the time, was just passing 2, and turned on the light in the room and went back to bed again, trying to explain the chill was because of the air conditioning. I dislike air conditioning. Somehow I remembered the rumor I heard from somewhere, that the presence of a ghost can actually lower the temperature, but tried to push the thought aside because I didn't want to admit I was actually scared. I fiddled with my phone, and when I briefly lifted my eyes from the phone, I saw something white outside the window. I just lowered my eyes back to the phone. It should be the curtain, I thought. I wanted to think so, even though I knew very well it wasn't. It was a ghost, wasn't it? But what if it wasn't? If it was just a curtain? I lifted my eyes again. I had to find out what that definitely was. Curtain was there, right? But right behind it was a woman with a long black hair and in a white morning dress. I was somewhat baffled to find the very first ghost I got to see in my life had to look such a cliché. Maybe that was in itself a proof that it was just an illusion based on my fixed idea. I looked at the window again to make sure once and for all. She was still there. I couldn't see her eyes and lips because they were hidden behind the security bars. But she was there. I ran out just in my t-shirt and shorts, and with my phone in my hand. Fortunately, brother was at the PC Bang internet cafe nearby, so I dragged him out and told him what I saw.
Oh, so now I have a ghost story of my own to tell, not something I picked up from the internet,
brother said with a grin. Clearly he wasn't taking me seriously. He told me to wait outside till he finished his round of game, which took another hour. I honestly wanted to kill him, but I couldn't dare to go back home by myself either. So just waited, chattering on the phone with a friend. Time was now passing 3. Brother came out finally, and we went back home together. When we checked the window of my room, well, of course, there was nothing.
Hey, where's the ghost you said you saw?
Brother teased. I don't know. Maybe it was the curtain. I knew it wasn't, but still wanted to believe it was, I guess. For the following days, I left the window and curtain as it was that night. I can be weirdly headstrong, and had I withdrawn the curtain, it would feel to me like I was admitting that it was a ghost. One night, brother came home late with his mate.
My sis said she saw a ghost in her room. Do you see anything too?
My brother said. Ah, really? Well, I do see one wandering round and round this building, brother's mate said. What? What was wandering around? I couldn't quite make sense of what they were talking about. Can you describe the ghost you saw the other day? The mate asked me. Well, the long hair went down to the shoulder, was wearing the typical white morning dress, and lips were bloody red. But I didn't see the eyes, I said. The mate nodded his head and said, right. I think it is she that I see too. I frankly didn't want to talk about it more, so I excused myself and went to use computer, which was in a different room. I almost consciously immersed myself to playing a game, but there was a growing sense of nervousness. I checked the time, and it was passing 2 at night. I heard a commotion from outside the room. A moment later, brother and his mate burst into my room. The mate pushed my head towards the window and said, Do you see? Do you see what's outside now? Do you? I've known him always calm and collected, and his shout caught me by surprise. I don't see anything, I said. He then walked out without much word, and soon left. It was my brother who told me what that was about.
That ghost you saw is a woman about your age and has been around before we moved in. You see, most ghosts would turn away when they meet my mate's eyes, but this one would stare right back. He thinks your eyes met hers the other night, and she's coming around to check on you every night ever since.
What? So she was looking into my room every day through the window whose curtain and frosted glass I stubbornly left unclosed? Brother carried on.
You see, earlier we were sitting in the living room, and my mate suddenly started spitting swears like, What are you keep staring for, bitch? Get the F out of here right now. You know, he normally never say anything vulgar. Then he jumped up and went to you in the computer room. When he asked you if you saw something, the ghost was right there by the window. When my mate swore at it to go away, the ghost simply went around the building and peeped in through the computer room window.
It was all too much, and too much information. What is brother's mate? What's that ghost? Why was this happening to me? How does he know this? If he can see it, can't he get rid of it too? I said in the end. Apparently brother's mate was born with a third eye and has been seeing ghosts from early age. He's not a shaman or anything, but he's given chi, the life energy, was so strong, usually any common wandering ghosts would move away from him. But the ghost I saw didn't seem to care, no matter how hard he glared and swore at it.
Well, he said it doesn't mean harm or indeed actually come into your room, so I think it's okay,
was my brother's conclusion. He then went into my room, lied down on my bed, saying,
So you're saying you saw it from here? Why don't I see anything?
I lied down on my bed myself and pointed to the window, saying, You see the security bar, the second bar to the left, and... But I couldn't finish the sentence because the ghost slowly pushed her head over the window with a smile on her lips. I think I didn't use my room for a month, even though once the summer vacation was over, I had to gradually get back in the room to study and so on. Now, that's already 2 years ago. We are still living in the same flat, and still something weird occasionally happens. Like one night, I heard something heavy jumping off from the window sill, loudly ran over, and jumped onto the next to me on bed. Or heard footsteps endlessly wandering up and down in my room. Or last night, brother came over to my room with his pillow, complaining something kept whispering in his ears as he tried to sleep. A voice of a woman. A young woman. So, yeah, she's still here. Hi, it's Anthony here, and thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's stories, and I think you understood why I thought these ghosts are different from our usual scary ghosts. Actually, it shouldn't be surprising, considering most people would fit in the spectrum of good to harmless. Most ghosts, basically the spirit of the dead people, should also be benign, with the usual desire for connection, love, and privacy? Or does this perspective take away the thrilling fun from ghost stories? If you enjoyed my work, please give it a thumbs up and a comment, and please consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't yet. My channel is all about amusing and bizarre stories straight from Korean web communities, ranging from supernatural to true crime to disasters, with a cultural reference where necessary to help you fully enjoy the stories. If you'd support me more directly, I also have a Buy Me a Coffee account, or if you prefer, you could also use Super Thanks option here on YouTube to make a small donation. Thank you. I'll come back next Sunday. Stay safe and take care.